What do you do when the past doesn't always stay in the past? Stick around, we're going to be talking about that today in the Step Out and Thrive podcast. You are enjoying the Step Out and Thrive podcast. Hey, my name is Bethany B. Joy. Welcome to the Step Out and Thrive podcast. You are in the right place because guess what? You can be here just as you are. You do not have to have a title. You do not have to pour out. You can just spend this time receiving. This podcast is for those who love God and want to pour out into the lives of other people. You feel alive, serving, helping people grow closer to God. But here's the thing. Sometimes we serve so much that we forget who we are. We forget our roots. We forget that we need to be surrounded by other people who really see us and remind us for who we are so that we can step out and thrive. If that resonates with you, you are in the right place and you are in the right series because we have just started our Rooted series where we're talking about what does it really feel like and look like and walk like when we are deeply rooted in Christ. And this is one of those things where you're not going to be checking out, yep, I do that, yep, I do that, yep. Mostly it's just being aware of what's going on. I use the example of coming into the doctor's office and you know something's off and you're not sure what. And then they mention, hey, did you have this shrimp a couple days ago? And you're like, oh, that's what that is. Or you get the blood work that's back and you realize, white cells or red cells are up and down or all around, right? Something's off. And so these are some, kind of things that we can check off or be aware of when things seem off. Last week, we talked about the ability for us to know and receive being loved for who we are more than what we do. And that was a hard line to say, even for myself. I shared some of that story. Today is where we're focusing on what do we do when the past doesn't always stay in the past. And we start noticing these cycles of where we kind of show up in a different way, even some of those ways that surprise even us. So my story is a little bit like this. Growing up, I found myself sitting in church some of the days, and just like all kids, middle school or even younger, you sit in these services and you're like, I'm bored, right? I mean, no matter how amazing the services are nowadays, I look at some of the contemporary services nowadays, I'm like, dude, if I would have had that, things were different. We're not even going to go there. Okay, I had a great church growing up, but it was just different. All of this to say, when I sat and I listened to people speak, whether it's a preacher, whether it was a teacher, no matter who it was, I always thought of how can I make what they're doing land better? It wasn't simply I'm bored. It was taking it to the next level. It's like, wow, if I was trying to teach that concept, I would do it like this. And I realized later on that I really enjoy speaking and sharing in front of other people. However, the first time that I really remember doing this older on in my life was that I was in high school. I knew I wasn't feeling good talking about like checkups. I knew I wasn't feeling good, but I knew I had to go and I had to give a speech. So I remember standing in front of the class one moment and barely getting through the first sentence of my speech before, no kidding y'all, I passed out. I passed out right in the middle of my English class, hit the floor, and I can't remember. I think I had double pneumonia. We found out later on. Yeah, I have a high pain threshold. Anyway, that's one of many stories that I have. So I just was questioning. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't speak. Maybe that's not my calling. And even that, I remember going to college and taking the speech class. And again, I noticed this excitement about being up there. And I'll never forget the guy that was running our speech class. He was an adjunct professor, so he wasn't really like the one that was going to lead the whole thing. But I remember he told to me, he's like, some people are meant to do speaking and then some people aren't. I think he might be the latter. And I remember even questioning, I'm like, maybe he meant the former. But then I knew what he meant, and I was just so discouraged by that. I didn't understand why I could feel so alive and yet be knocked down so many times. I had no idea that, especially in the traditional Christian church, it is really hard for women to have speaking roles, especially in front of like the whole church. But every church that I served at, I actually had the opportunity to speak in one way or another. And I'll never forget one of the churches I was at, it was a larger church, and I got to help out with the message. And I remember I was pregnant at the time, so I was pregnant with my first kiddo. And I think we were talking about Mary. I don't even remember, y'all, what we were talking about. We were talking about, I don't remember what it was. But I remember feeling so alive after the first time I did it. And I was getting high fives from people on the way out, and it was so good. And they had the second service. And I thought I nailed it on the second service. And I remember two people cornering me before I left the auditorium, because I had to go help out with the kids because I was in children's ministry at the time. And I remember they cornered me and they said, I appreciate what you said, but let's leave the preaching to the men from now on. And I just, like, everything in me just sunk. And I was like, and again, there were so many other compliments. There were so many other encouraging things that were said that day. But what do you think I walked away with? Those two words. In fact, every time I've spoken in the church environment, I've had somebody come up to me and say something like that. It never fails. Each time I get up, and I'm talking about one of those environments where it's like a Sunday morning kind of deal. I've spoken several other different places, conferences, Toastmasters events. I mean, totally different opportunities. And in those environments, it's been treated well. But in the traditional church environment, it's been interesting, very interesting in how it's been received. So why do I bring this up? Well, if you know me, I speak. I really do. But especially when I started losing my vision and hearing, I was like, well, that ship has sailed. It's like, that's not going to happen anymore. I'm going to fall off the stinking stage. And that really was a thing. And I did find out later, by the way, little ADD moments. I did actually fall off the stage when I was little. I was on a stage doing a church program of some sort, and I fell off the end of the stage, which makes me feel a whole lot better because I felt like this had happened, and I did have it confirmed a couple weeks ago that it really did happen. So I was like, I'm not losing my mind. So I really did fall off the stage. So it's a real thing that I was afraid of. But anyway, I'm not going to go into all of that right now. But I want you to know, when I started actually speaking, my goal there for a little bit, and I couldn't even articulate it, but my goal was to get through a day, to get to a church service, a Sunday service, a Wednesday service, whatever, with everybody there and me earning 100% positive feedback from everybody. Like, that was a goal for me. And I would take on like these amazing opportunities. Like, I won contests. I've had so many things that I've gotten to accomplish, but none of it felt good enough because I couldn't get that Sunday service that I really wanted to. Looking back at that, I'm like, what? And honestly, I still haven't got that. But that's not the end all for me. Like, if I ever get to speak at a Sunday service, y'all, I'm game for that. I've spoken at several Sunday services. So I'm not against that. Don't hear that. But I am not going to be speaking in order to get positive feedback from everybody. I'm speaking because God has given me a message, because I feel alive when I'm speaking. I'm not letting the worst from my past dictate what I'm going to do right now and how I'm going to walk out in the future. Did this come automatically? No. I had to get really serious, and I had a really good counselor that asked me flat out what was keeping me from real speaking. And I was like, well, I don't want to fall off the stage. Point taken. We kind of dig some deep. But he's like, no, there's something else there, Bethany. And we started digging, and that's when the whole Sunday services thing came up. That's when we really got to some of this feedback that I had. And he's like, what's the story there? That hurt. That wasn't a one and done, shared, everything's done again, and everything's fine. It took a lot of actual sessions leading up to that for me to really finally feel okay speaking in public and being myself and sharing what God had given me and not feeling shame and not feeling guilt. It's a past story that I had to face, and I don't think I would have unless my counselor had brought that into my attention. So what story do you have from your past that's coming up? And here's the thing, we can't stuff it. I use the example, this with emotions too, but it can be with past things. Is that so many times we're like, well, we can hold it under and we won't have to worry about it, right? But just like empty bottles, you can only hold so many empty bottles underneath water for so long before they come back up to the surface. And usually it's not at the time that we want it to happen. It's usually not the right time at all. Now here's the thing. When a bottle comes up and something happens and something makes us feel off, to get curious about it. Go, when was the last time that I felt this way? And don't use it as a condemning thing, but notice you're not the same person that you were in the past. But a lot of times you can grab that little girl or that little boy and go, hey, can you show me what was going on back then? And care for that little boy or little girl. And take that little boy or little girl to Jesus. And if you're listening to this right now and you're like, what is she saying? This is some of the Emmanuel approach that we go over in the groups that I facilitate. There's a lot more there. But the one thing that I want you to do, ready? The one challenge I want you to do is to get curious, is as I've been sharing, is there something right now that's coming up from your past that you're like, oh, I don't want to go there. Nope, stinks. Right? I'm not saying to fix it. I'm just saying, can you articulate that? Can you write it down? Can you draw a picture of it? Can you share? Our Step Out and Thrive community, especially our free tier, is a great place for you to come and just share. It's off of Facebook because we want it to be a private community where you can just come. Don't let the past control you. It does not need to be in the driver's seat. I want you to be able to focus on the road in front of you, not on the rearview mirror. I would love for you to be a part of the community. You can check us out at community.stepoutandthrive.com. You can join the free tier and stay in touch with our podcast. Or you can also just check out the main page, stepoutandthrive.com, and get all the links there. And we'd love to have you either in the free community or even the paid Inner Circle community. Without that being said, thank you for doing this hard work with me today. And yes, there's more to come. Way to stay rooted. Dare to do more than just survive. Step out and thrive. See you guys back here next week. Bye. Thanks for enjoying today's Step Out and Thrive podcast, the one place that you can always count to dare to do more than just survive, to step out and thrive. As always, for more information, please check out BethanyBJoy.com or StepOutandThrive.com.